because this year with Young Life, it's going to be an adventure. We're going to have a ton of fun. You're going to laugh at stuff that just doesn't make sense, right, Raglan? We just do things. You're like, I don't know what's happening up there, but I'm laughing because it's just so different. I don't know what's happening. But our hope is that on Monday nights, we can all come together and we can have like the best party ever. That in this space, life would just feel good. It would feel light. It would feel right. Like you could come in here and you don't have to be anybody else. You can just be who you are. And you can live life like you never have before. I don't know about y'all, but I love like finding the big crazy parties. And there was a few years ago that I really wanted to be a part of this party that maybe some of y'all would scratch your heads and you go, I'm not sure that that's a party, but it was to me, okay? The University of Georgia had not won a national championship in about 40 years. And they were playing for a national championship. It was in 2017. Spoiler alert, many of you may know exactly how it ended, but I need to tell you that because Georgia had not played in the national championship for about 40 years, and the game was being played in Atlanta, Georgia, everybody in this state wanted to go to that game. And I was one of those people. And I didn't think I was going to get in, but I was going to do everything I could to get into that party because I didn't want to miss it. And I remember at the time I lived in Florida, and so I gathered all the money I had. I drove up to Atlanta. It was a cold, rainy day in Georgia in January. And in fact, it was like sleet ice. They had canceled all of school in Atlanta because they were afraid everything would ice over. And so I was up there trying to get in on this party, the national championship. And I walked around the stadium for like 5 or 6 hours. I had the universal symbol of I need a ticket up in the air. I just walked around with a 1. It wasn't because we were the best, it was because I needed to get into this party. And as the hours went by, I saw everybody else laughing, having a good time, and I thought, man, I'm going to miss out on this party. And then just before kickoff, a friend of mine from Macon, Georgia gave me a call. He'd been in our Young Life Club there, and he called me and he was like, hey, Joel, I got you a ticket. And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? How much is it and where is it? And then I was like, I don't care where it is. How much is it? And he goes, man, don't worry about it. I just want you in the party with us. You got to come on in. So I got a free ticket, and these tickets were costing thousands of dollars. And I couldn't believe it. I was in on the party. I've got a little evidence. You can put up a couple of these pictures if they'll come up. This is, let's see, the first picture you'll see, that's me actually keeping the one up, but this time I was hoping that Georgia was going to end up number 1. Spoiler alert, they didn't. And then you can see right here, this next picture, this is me and one of my best friends, Sean Dutcher. We got to share the highs and the lows of this game. And y'all, for the first 3 quarters of this game, it was the best party. Georgia was playing out of their minds, and I thought, we're finally going to do it. We're finally going to win the national championship. But then things started to circle the drain. It was the same old story. It's too good to be true. All of a sudden, we're going to overtime with Bama. All you Bama fans, roll tide, because you know what happened? We had sacked this guy named Tua. All we had to do was defend the last pass, and we were national champs. But instead, we let a freshman quarterback who came in at halftime lob a bomb out into the air, and then this guy named Devontae Smith, another freshman, happened to catch the ball and score a touchdown, and then the game was over, and Bama once again was national champs. I had gone, that's right, roll tide to you, man, roll tide to you, because right now you need it. Sorry. But here's the thing, I was in this party, and it was the best party ever, and then everything started to fall apart. You ever been in those kind of parties where you're like, there's got to be more. This is what I've been waiting for. I can't wait. And then you start to feel it circle the drain. Well, you know, on Monday nights here at Young Life, our hope is that as we gather together, we're going to chase after a party that won't disappoint us. Our hope is that no matter what your story is, where you come from, what school you go to, this place feels like your place. That you can be here. You can pull for your team, and I'll pull for my team. But we belong together. This is our space, and we're going to chase after big life together. Wouldn't it be sweet if this year we got to experience life the way it was meant to be? You know, a lot of us Young Life leaders, we're here because we believe that there is a life that you and I were made for. That God made you and me for a big life. And we believe to find that life, we need to look at this man named Jesus. Now, some of you, when you hear me say Jesus, you're like, whoa, 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 my friends told me to come to this thing. I didn't know it was that kind of thing. We're at a Jesus thing. Some of you hear it and you think, okay, it's like church camp or church, youth group. I know how to act in here. I'll behave. And maybe some of you have all kinds of different thoughts. But I want you to know, no matter what your belief is on who Jesus is, this place is for you. This place is about real life. And when I look at Jesus, when you open up this Bible, it says there's a God who made you and me for a really big life. A party that's beyond our wildest dreams. And it says that God wanted so badly for you and me to know what God's really like. That God wanted so badly for you and me to know what He thinks about us, how He feels about us, that He likes us. He loves us. He's crazy about us. That God did something unheard of. He became a human being. Jesus, the greatest person to ever walk the face of the earth. When we look at Jesus, we get to see that's what God's really like. When we look at Jesus, we get to see that's how He feels about me. When we look at Jesus, we get to see that's what life is meant to be like. And tonight, there were some people, including Jesus, who were going at it. They were living life to the full in a party. And then things began to turn south, and I want to look at what happened. It takes place in John chapter 2. John is a gospel. In the back of the Bible is kind of like a biography. When we open up the gospel, we can look at Jesus and see Him who He really is, what His life is like. So let me set the scene for you. Jesus, He's at a party. He's at a wedding. Now, the weddings back in Jesus' day were not like ours. There's not this ceremony that lasts sometimes like 10 minutes. You blink and it's over. And then you go to the reception. And then that's it. You call it a day. No, their weddings were like weeks on end, blowout parties. Families staked their reputations on it. And Jesus got invited to this party with His buddies. They're laughing. They're having a good time. They're cutting up. They're dancing. And then all of a sudden, behind the scenes, the workers of that party start to panic. They feel the air being let out of this celebration. You see, there's a master of ceremonies who's hired by these families who's trying to make sure everything's just right. And they begin to realize, wait, the wine is running out. We don't have enough wine to get us to the end of this party. Well, Jesus' mom is also at this party. And she's like one of those moms that super believes in her kid. And she walks over to Jesus and she's like, hey, they're out of wine. Jesus is like mid this big story. I picture him laughing and his mom butts in, hey, they're out of wine. And he's like, Mom, go away. Go away. This is not time for me to do something. I'm trying to have fun. So his mom walks away. And she walks over to the guys that are working the party. She says, hey, I want you to do whatever He tells you to do. She really is that mom that's like, she believes so much in Jesus. And she's like, even if He said He's not going to do it, I'm going to make Him do it. And so these servants, these employees, these workers, they walk over to Jesus. And Jesus says, okay, well, I guess I've got to do something. He starts looking around. He sees these water jars, big, massive water jars. They use them to wash people's feet. You can see Jesus lived in the Middle East. It was hot. It was dirty. It was dusty. And they walked around in sandals. And so everywhere they went, their feet were disgusting. And they would use these jars to wash their feet so they could be at the party and look presentable. Well, Jesus looks at these 6 stone water jars and He says, all right, I want you to fill up these water jars and then serve a sample to the master of the ceremonies. He's got to make sure it's okay to serve. It's kind of crazy, this request that Jesus had them do. Because He was asking them to take nasty foot water and go, here, taste it. See if it's good. But there was something about Jesus. These people, they didn't hesitate. They're like, okay, we're going to do whatever He says. They filled up these water jars. They took the water over to the master of ceremonies. And listen, their jobs were on the line. If it was foot water, they were out on the street. They hand this water to the master of the ceremonies. He puts it to his lips. All of a sudden, his eyes get wide. He says, oh my gosh. You know, most weddings that I oversee, they bring out the good stuff at the beginning. And then once everybody's had a little bit, you know, they're feeling a little tipsy, they can't tell. Then they bring out the cheap stuff. You know, the $2 chuck, the box wine, they bring that out. The stuff that gives you the headache, but not y'all. You brought out the best wine I've ever tasted. Oh my gosh, you saved the best for last. And y'all, this party, the roof blew off of that thing. They began to celebrate. They had such a good time. And it says here that Jesus, he chose this. This was the first thing he did to show everybody, this is what God's like. Jesus took a party that was circling the drain and blew the roof off of it. And if you thought Jesus was really boring, if you thought he came to suck the joy out of life, I'd say, look again, because that's not the God I know. Y'all, when I went to that national championship, I had a lot of hope. I really did believe, man, if Georgia could finally win the national championship, then maybe things would be a little different for me. I know it's a little naive. It's just a football game. But I wonder how many places do we run after things and we think, this is going to feel so good. If I could just have this, if I could get into this party, then life would be what I hoped it would be. And yet, they all tend to fall apart. But Jesus, he's the one who says, I can take nasty foot water and I can make it the best that you've ever tasted. Y'all, this year, I hope you might take a risk. You might come and hang with us on Monday nights. That we might look at Jesus in the hopes that we would find the life that we were made to live. Think about it. I don't know what you believe about Jesus, but what's the worst that could happen? Maybe you go through this year, and we have a big party. Tonight was fun. I hope it was a good time for you. We have a big party for the whole year. Mondays are pretty lame on the reel without Young Life, so normally I'm not doing anything. The worst that could happen is we have a good time every Monday night, and you go, you know what? I don't believe Jesus is for me. I don't really buy it. You know what? That's okay. That's up to you. But what if you came? What if you came every Monday night? You laughed at ridiculous things. You got to be yourself, and you began to experience life when it was right. It was easy. It felt the way it was supposed to be. And you found life in Jesus. That'd be incredible. Well, I hope you'll come with us. We'll be back next Monday night over across from Swift and Finch, 538 Broad Street. We're going to hang out every Monday night. We hope you'll be with us because we were made for a life that gets better at the end than at the beginning. The story is far from over for us. We can keep chasing after it together. Hope you'll come with us. Hey, you guys have been amazing to listen to me. Here's what I'd love to do. I would love to ask you just a couple questions. Maybe you can think about them as you're driving home. You could talk about them with your friends. Maybe when you can't fall asleep tonight because you're worried about that test, just start thinking about these questions. The first question, have you ever experienced a place where life felt good? You could be real. What was that like? Where was that? Second question, why do you think Jesus chose turning water into wine to be the first glimpse he gave the world of what God's like? Why would he choose that? Then the third thing, where do you feel like the party is ending in your life, so to speak? And what would it feel like for Jesus to make it even better at the end, for you to have hope that it's not the end of the story? You guys are so deeply loved. And I'm so thankful that you would come hang out with us tonight. If you'll allow me, I'd love to pray for us, and then we'll be done. We'll be back next Monday night. God, thank you for these friends. I pray that tonight would be the start of something incredible. That it wouldn't be a party that circles the drain, but that we might find the life we groaned for, the life that we were made for. May this be the best year yet. We love you, Jesus. We want to know you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week.
What's up?
In a while.
What's your name?
Isaac. DJ. Clay.
I've met you.
Manny.
Nice to meet you, Jason. Sydney. Did you drive here today?
Katie Mobile. Hi, Sydney.
Are you going to be at afternoon programs tomorrow?
No,
Why?
because I can't. I have stuff to do.
What do you have to do?
I have volleyball. I have a game.
Why do you have volleyball?
Because I chose to do it, Sydney. What else do you think I would be there for? Sydney,
Yeah. King?
she was saying you're king.
Are all events gonna be? Are all events gonna be all area events?
We will, yeah. All, at least this semester. Maybe even one.
So, what's your name? My name's Sydney. You work here?
I do.